We should be rolling. Let's find out.
Yep, I see us.
Well, I'm glad you see us.
You don't see us?
I do not.
Well, we're there, I promise.
Hey, hey.
Hello.
There we are. Cool. All right. Let's let's do
Ready
it.
when you are.
Yeah, let's do it to it.
Cool.
Man, oh man, another week in the NFL, and I honestly feel like I continue to know nothing. I went basically 500 in my picks this week because who knows? Who knows what's going to happen on a weekly basis in the NFL? Not me, not you, not any of us. Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by the Sultan of Spice himself, Mr. Peter Strauss. What's going on, man?
Those conditions that you saw at the Atlanta Carolina game, that was my house all day Sunday, times like 10.
You mean nobody was in your house?
Very few people. Very few people were in my house, but also rain literally for a straight like 12 to 13 hours. There was a tornado that landed in our neighborhood that took
Yeah.
down some big trees. And we didn't have power from like pretty much right when football started until the end of the end of the first window. So didn't get to watch as much Sunday as I hoped. It was funny because between Thursday and Saturday, I felt so good about my picks because Thursday and Saturday I got 4 for 4,
Yeah.
and I got to win Detroit over you, and I was like, yes. And then watching the scores, Chicago was beating Cleveland, and I was like, okay, cool, that's going to be another one, and then they turn around and lose that one. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, an interesting weekend. Some more playoff shuffling, which we will, I'm sure, get to right before our picks. Some teams eliminated, some teams clinching, divisions getting clinched, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like with the way that the schedule has played out, we're at a point now to where, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 games every week are important in some fashion. Like, there's not, like, usually by week 16, there's a decent amount of games where it's like, okay, well, that game doesn't really matter. Neither team is in it anymore. And now it's like, well, everybody's still in it somehow. Everybody's only like a game out or maybe even 2 games out. It's like, anybody's still got a chance. I think
Yeah, I
there's
think
there's like 3 teams that have actually only been eliminated, 3 or 4.
there's 6 now. I was going to wait to get into
Oh,
this, but we can talk about it
ooh,
now. Eliminated from the playoffs in the AFC, the Tennessee Titans, with their
that's right.
overtime
Yeah,
loss to the Houston Texans, are out. The Patriots already going into this week were out. Uh, the Goose Egg New York Jets over there in New Jersey, out. Down in the NFC, The Washington Commies, with their loss to the Rams, are out. The Cardinals took them long enough to get there. Cardinals are out, and of course, the Panthers have already been out.
Yeah.
And then we had 4 teams that clinched. 2 of them lost and still clinched a playoff spot. And the AFC, the only team, Baltimore Ravens have clinched a playoff berth. Obviously, they can still lose the division or still lose the number 1 seed, but they are in the playoffs no matter what. Down in the NFC, the 49ers have clinched the NFC West once again, which I think pretty much everybody predicted this year.
Right.
And then the Cowboys and the Eagles both clinch playoff berths, despite pretty bad losses this weekend. This may be out of order. That does kind of lead to my under review. If we want to get fancy here.
I mean, we can get wonky with it again.
We can get wonky. Why not? The NFL's wonky. My neighborhood's wonky from the tornado. Let's just do it. Dallas Cowboys defense. I understand that the entire team allegedly was poisoned the day before. I don't know if you saw that story.
It did not.
There were, I think on Thursday or Friday, 10 plus players and coaches, including Brandon Cook, Stan Quinn, like a lot of their bigger players, ordered pizza from a restaurant in Buffalo. Took an hour and a half to get there, and then all of them ended up on the injury report the next day with an illness.
Oh, so they all got Michael Jordan. That's what happened.
Yeah. And so there's conspiracies flying around that, somebody in Buffalo did something on purpose, and somebody is actually investigating it. Had a bad pizza. It happens, I'm sure. But regardless, how are you going to let a team dominate you with their quarterbacks only throwing the ball 15 times? Josh Allen was only 7 for 15 for 94 yards. They allowed 266 rushing yards, 180 of those to James Cook, who's in his second year, I think, a second-year running back.
Second or third, yeah.
Like, you're the most... A lot of people have called you the most dominant defense in football this year, maybe besides the Browns. But you guys are...
They're up there.
You've had a top 3 defense for at least 2 or 3 years. And with you finally getting ahead of the Eagles in the division, with you creeping up, still trying to keep up for that number 1 seed with San Francisco, this is how you're going to come out and play? I get that your winning streak is at home. I understand that you're from Texas and it was cold up in Buffalo. That's just how it goes. What do you think is going to happen when you have to go, if you have to go play in Philly in the playoffs?
That's why they need home field advantage.
Yeah, and you're not going to get it this way. Like, you guys are lucky the Eagles lost, because otherwise they were coming right back up for the division title.
Yeah.
It was just, you look at their big players. Deron Bland only had 1 tackle, no passes deflected, no nothing. Micah Parsons had 2 tackles. It was DeMarcus Lawrence, was him and Damone Clark, who I'm not super familiar with, were kind of carrying the tackles there, but there wasn't a lot to tackle. And then Dak, of course, had an interception. It was just, they just couldn't get anything going against Buffalo, and Buffalo didn't have to do anything. Josh Allen even said, Josh Allen was the kid in a group project who didn't do anything and still got an A. 15 attempts. And it's not like it was bad weather. It's not like the game from last year, the Buffalo and Patriots, where Mac Jones threw the ball 3 times and they still won because it was like a hurricane up there. It was only cold. I don't know. You guys are supposed to be a playoff team. It's supposed to be your year, Dallas. It was finally your year again. And this is what you're doing. Under review.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just on Dallas's defense, though. I mean, their offense didn't show up either. You mentioned Dak. Dak had a very subpar game, especially compared to what he's done all season. going into this week, everybody was saying, he's the MVP frontrunner. I think he took a big step backwards in that race. I think you've got to start. I think at this point you've got to start putting Brock Purdy as the front runner. Seeing how week in week out he's just taking care of business, and you get a game like this from Dak Prescott against a decent Buffalo Bills team. I would say a scary Buffalo Bills team, but also a Buffalo Bills team that had put themselves in a position to where they're literally fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've secured anything because they've played poorly. So while they're a scary team to face, they're vulnerable, they're beatable, and Dallas just couldn't handle the business. It is a shame. I'm with you. This is a week, or this is a year that I think was Dallas's to go out and take care of business, and this is not how you do it. Oh boy. Cool. 10 minutes into the pod. To give a little behind the scenes to anybody who might be watching, Pete's computer just shut off. So here I am all alone talking about how garbage the Cowboys are. Because they are. And at least that's the way they looked on Sunday. I think they're better than how they look. They're a good team. It's just when you're facing actual opponents, can you put your best foot forward? I don't know.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let me see if I can restore my pages here. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just blue screened and decided to restart, so
Weird.
I'm sure it needs updates and stuff. I turn my computer on at this point like twice a week. One for D&D and then one for this. So
It's all good.
You were talking last, so I'm not sure where you want to go from.
But... Yeah, I know where it was. I got a good transition.
Okay.
I don't have your camera. I might just need to refresh you.
Oh, no. Let me get you a new link. For some reason, that didn't come back up right.
You should be able to just reuse the same link. You just leave the tab open?
Yeah, for some reason it didn't like my camera again. So let me just...
Well, whatever.
Yeah. This never happens to me?
I know, it always happens to me. It's nice for once not being the reason why there's issues. Alright, there we go. Well, since we are doing this all wonky style, and you brought up your under review, I'm gonna bring up mine. And it is another team that is in the contending area of the AFC. It's the Denver Broncos. It's a team that started off very poorly and put themselves back into a position to where they could potentially make a run at the playoffs, and people started to believe in them. And then so much so that I even picked them to win last week. And then they went up against a Lions team that had been struggling. It's just seemed like, okay, this is a team. Broncos should be able to win this game. The way the Lions have looked recently, with the way the Broncos have looked recently, everything's lined up for Denver to at the very least, keep it close. That did not happen. Denver's defense apparently didn't get the memo, didn't show up to the game. For that matter, Denver's offense didn't either. Russell Wilson didn't have a particularly great game. But as far as defense goes, they allowed 5 touchdown passes to Jared Goff. I don't remember the last time Jared Goff threw 5 touchdown passes in a game. And 185 rushing yards between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. You can't compete with the big dogs of the NFL when you're allowing numbers like that. And I get it, Detroit's offense is very good. We mentioned that last week. Their offense is probably one of the best in the league. But, if you want to be a true contender, if you want to go out there and make a run at the playoffs and ultimately make a run at the Super Bowl, you've got to be able to stop those offenses. And Denver's defense couldn't do anything. They just gave Detroit any bit of anything they wanted on Saturday. So I've got to put Denver's defense under review.
Yeah, especially with, how desperate they have to be for wins too, because that knocks them back with the Bills, the Texans, the Colts, the Bengals, and the Browns all winning this week. It just makes it that much harder for them to snag. And the Chiefs too, able to stay 2 games ahead in the AFC West race.
I think Denver's now a game out of a wild card.
They're 1 game out, yes, technically, but they are currently the 11th seed.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're a game out with like 2 or 3 teams ahead of them. So
there are 4 teams: the Bengals, Colts, Texans, and Bills are all 8-6, and then the Steelers have the tiebreaker over the Broncos, and those 2 teams are 7-7 at 10th and 11th.
Oof.
And I mean, all these 4 teams, the Bengals, Colts, Texans, Bills, those guys are going to stay hungry. Texans are going to get CJ Stroud back hopefully this week, which will be, and maybe also, I didn't see that Nico Collins' injury was, it didn't put him on IR or anything, so that he might be back this week as well.
That's good.
But I mean, Noah Brown still balled out, which, shout out to, was it Case Keenum for the Texans this week? Shout out to Case Keenum for getting that done.
Yeah.
Getting them an overtime win. But yeah, it's just in a race that's very tight like this, you can't afford to make mistakes. And I understand Detroit's a very good team, but when you look at schedules of some of these other teams for the rest of the year, if you're the Broncos, you can't afford to lose any more games.
Right.
And with a Lions team that was struggling, like you said, that this should have been an opportunity for them, and they just squandered it. So,
well, I mean, speaking of teams that have gone up against Detroit and beat them, I can get into my best of the booth real quick too. Just kind of weirdly segue into that. A couple weeks ago, let's just go back to Thanksgiving and remember Thanksgiving. Remember happy times in Wisconsin. When the Packers were coming out of nowhere and kind of make a little bit of a run. Beat the Lions, then they went on and beat the Chiefs. And I said after the Lions game that they're probably going to make the playoffs now. I expected them to go 5-1 down the stretch. And here we are. They have gone 1-2. And those 2 losses have been against the New York Giants and now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which gets me finally to my best of the booth, which has to be Baker Mayfield, who went 22 of 28, 78.5% completion percentage for 381 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, just the 1 fumble, but somehow that didn't matter. He walked away with a perfect passer rating of 158.3, the second quarterback to have a perfect passer rating this season. And here's a little fun fact for you. In the 66-year history of Lambeau Field, there has never been a visiting quarterback to post a perfect passer rating until now. Baker Mayfield holds that honor. Who would have guessed that?
Wow.
Who would have guessed that? which I'm okay with. Like, I love Baker. Good. I've said this so many times before, but good Baker is fun Baker, and it's good for the league. So I'm here for the Baker renaissance happening down in Tampa Bay, and I actually kind of hope that Tampa Bay gets into the playoffs, whether it's by winning the division or getting one of the wild cards. Which I don't want to see two teams from the NFC South make it into the playoffs, but if it means the Tampa Bay is one of them, I'm okay with it. And I don't know what's happening in Green Bay. Just fire Joe Barry. He should have been gone 2 years ago. I mean, there's been so much talent on that defense over the last 3 years now that he's been there, and they always, on paper, should be a top 5 defense and always end up being a very, very mediocre or subpar defense. I don't understand what's happening. He's the reason we lost against the Giants by playing incredibly weak coverage on that final drive where Tommy DeVito was able to just carve them apart to go down there and kick the winning field goal. And he's the reason that they lost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because Baker Mayfield was able to just sit back there and do whatever he wanted to on 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20, and still find receivers wide open. Lack of pressure, lack of coverage, just terrible game plan. Could have put the Packers defense under review. Probably should have at this point, but I didn't want to have both in the same game, and it would be awful to not be able to talk about Baker Mayfield and the fantastic day he had carving up that terrible Green Bay defense.
Yeah, and you say receivers. It was mainly, you can't talk about this game without talking about Chris Godwin also.
Yes.
He was 10 of 12 for 155 yards. Somehow didn't get a touchdown in there. That went to everyone else.
Yes.
But yeah, just like, you think about the situations that Baker has been in since Cleveland, right? Because he was on the Panthers. It wasn't Frank Reich. I don't remember who the coach was that year, but he still had CMC in the backfield. He still had DJ Moore. Like, you think about that situation, like being potentially good. I think we picked him to do like good things that year with the Carolina Panthers. Stunking up, was horrible with the Panthers. And then he goes to the Rams, where we think possibly he would stay because he had that kind of how Josh Dobbs did this year with the Vikings. Came into the Rams, had a game-winning drive against the Raiders on primetime Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
They're like, oh, Baker and Sean McVay could be a good pairing. And then all of a sudden he's in like Tampa, and it's like, this feels gross. But it just works. It just works. It's I don't know, like sometimes somebody recommends you food and you're like, that sounds gross, and then you try it. It's like, oh, it's actually really good. That's what's happening down in Tampa Bay right now.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it, but it does seem like they're just kind of letting him be him without trying to do too much, without trying to rein him in or control him too much. They're just kind of giving him the freedom to be Baker. And I think that's what you got to do with him. It's working out. I mean, I think he's capable, honestly, of, if they get into the playoffs, winning at least one playoff game. It would not surprise me at all. I think their first round matchup, what seeding are they currently?
The Bucks are they're the 4th seed. They're winning the NFC South currently.
Oh, so at this point they'd get a home game and they would be hosting the Eagles, right? Eagles are the 5 seed,
which would be tough.
It would be tough, but with the way the Eagles have looked recently, I don't think I'd be shocked if Tampa Bay won that game. I think that's definitely
they can make it
a doable game.
It's hard to say because they did play earlier in the year and got stomped on by the Eagles, but it's almost at this point, if you're Tampa Bay, where would you rather be? Because you can either be the 4th seed and take either the Eagles or the Cowboys at home, or no, I guess because if you're the 7th seed, then you pay either the Eagles or the Cowboys away. So it's really,
you don't
get the home field advantage.
You don't at this point. You don't want to go into Dallas and play the Cowboys because they have been ridiculous at home for all their problems on the road, especially this past weekend against Buffalo. They are the complete opposite in Big D. So I would not want to go there.
Right.
But anyways, who you got as your best of the booth this week?
There were plenty of not only good quarterback play, but good backup back play. Quarterbacks we never thought would be starting the season playing incredible games, right?
Backup quarterback.
Just go through some honorable mentions here. Aiden O'Connell with the Raiders. Their team put up 63 points. He was a big part of that. Minshew Mania, running wild for weeks, as I've said.
Hey, leading me to a championship, baby. I'll take it.
Elite Joe Flacco with another comeback win for Cleveland, keeping them, high up in the playoff race. Case Keenum with CJ Stroud out, keeping Houston in the wild card spot. But there was one who had a huge comeback this week. One who has been somehow incredible and keeping this team where we expected them to be all year long. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And that is once again Jake Browning of the Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have thought? Who after the game screamed into a camera because at one point he was on the Vikings practice squad. So because he's so not well known, people didn't even realize it was a revenge game for him until it was over and he screamed in the camera, "You should not have explicitive cut me." Like, what a moment for that guy to just come out. I mean, it is 3, like, I remember watching that game. I had to go run errands. It was 17-3 or something like that. And I came back and it was in overtime. And I'm like, what happened in the last hour while I was gone?
Yeah.
Just incredible. Let me go through his stats from that game real quick. He was 29 of 42, so almost like 75% completion percentage. 324 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the 1 pick. 56.8 QBR, 97.7 rating, including that incredible pass, that incredible play by T. Higgins to get that last touchdown to send him into overtime. I don't know what's happening in Cincinnati. I don't know if there's some magic in Joe Burrow's suite that's rubbing off on Jake Browning and his family. But they're a force. People thought their season was over, and yet they are a force to be reckoned with. Still very much, sitting atop those 8-6 teams. They are at the top of that tiebreaker, so they get a little bit of an advantage there as long as they can keep on winning games with Jake Browning. Got to give it to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what he's doing, that's for sure.
And the other thing real quick, it's not like he's getting the ball to just Jamar Chase. Like, he was spreading the ball around a lot. Jamar Chase, 4 catches, T. Higgins, 4 catches, Tyler Boyd, 2, Tanner Hudson, 5, and then the list goes on and on. There's like 11 different receivers on here that caught a pass from Jake Browning this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's crazy what he's doing. Hey, that's my phone. I should have silenced it. Let me just uno momento. That'll work. Listen,
we're professionals.
I'm an old man. I leave my phone on loud all the time, and it's just always dinging. So, yeah, it's crazy. What he's doing. He's gone. Joe Burrow went down against the Ravens. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure that's the game it was.
Yeah, I think it was that Thursday night football game.
That feels right. Yes, that's when it was. So since then, in the 4 games that he started, he's gone 3-1, and the one loss was to the Steelers, which is a little bit weird, seeing what he's done in the 3 games since then. That they would lose
his first start against a tough defense,
right?
Though,
right. But 3 wins in a row against the Jags, Colts, and Vikings. All 3 of those teams are currently playoff teams. They're all currently in the mix for playoff positions. And he's went on a run, beat all three of them. He has a chance to go this Saturday. I think it's Saturday. Yeah, Saturday the 23rd. And get some revenge on that Steelers team. That's who they're playing this weekend. To finish the season, it's going to be tough for them. They do get the Chiefs at Arrowhead, and they have to go home and play Cleveland. So that Week 18 Cleveland game could potentially be for a playoff spot with the way that team's playing as well. But yeah, shout out to Jake Brown for sure. Just an amazing game from him, an amazing run for him. I don't want to see it stop. I want to see it continue. So keep on doing it, man.
It's crazy how much potential there is this season for somebody to Nick Foles. Somebody to pull a Nick Foles. Between all those, like a lot of those quarterbacks I mentioned who are the starters, like Jake Browning, Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco, like I love and hate how much potential there is for this to happen.
Yeah. Really, of all of those, I feel like
I didn't even mention Drew Lock getting that win over the Eagles yesterday.
Drew Lock has looked good in the limited amount of time he's played for Seattle here and there. I do think Flacco probably has the best chance of any of them just because of how elite that defense is. So all he has to do is just play, mediocre, competent football. Not take anything away from what he's done. He's played very well. But that's all he's got to do with the way that defense is playing.
Yeah.
So, well, do we have a legit or counterfeit?
Yeah, I have a little simple one here.
Hey.
As it stands, 3 games left in the season.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin's career has never ended a game below 500.
Yep.
That streak comes to an end this year. Legit or counterfeit?
Ooh.
Let's go over their last 3 games. They get the Bengals at home. They go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. And then they go to Baltimore to play the Ravens.
Ooh.
All 3 of those games, I'm like, and it is tough without Kenny Pickett with them either starting Mitch Trubisky or I guess they still have Mason Rudolph, or is that even his name? Who knows?
Yeesh.
So it is like if they had Kenny Pickett, then like I definitely think they could sneak. I honestly still think somehow they could sneak a win. Division games are always weird. They have 2 of them, and the Seahawks have been real streaky, and they only need to win 2 of the 3 to stay above 500.
Yeah.
So do you think,
or they could go 1-1-1, tie one of them.
Oh my god. Part of it also depends on let me look at the Ravens schedule. Because if the Ravens clinch, I don't know if they can clinch the 1 spot, but if they can somehow clinch the 1 spot, then they might not even play their starters that week.
They currently have a 1-game lead over everybody else.
Oh, they play the 49ers and the Dolphins. I think they would have to win both those games to even think about resting starters, which is a tough ask from them too.
Well, isn't the Ravens are 11-3, the Dolphins are 10-4, is that correct?
Yes.
And then the Chiefs are 9-5.
Chiefs are 9-5. Yes.
So they have a 2-game lead over the Chiefs, and they get the head-to-head with the Dolphins. If they beat the Dolphins, that alone would probably secure them number 1 position. So there is a chance they go into Week 18
so you're
resting starters. There's definitely a chance. Oh man. I do think legit that this is the year that Mike Tomlin's streak ends. I just don't. When you look at the Steelers, they're not a good enough. Obviously they beat the Bengals. They beat the Bengals 4 weeks ago. whenever Jake Brown took over. So it's possible for them to do. But they also had Kenny Pickett in that game, which I'm not going to sit here and say Kenny Pickett is miles ahead of whatever the other options they have there are. He's not. He hasn't played like he is anyways. But I just think that the Bengals currently are playing better. I think the Seahawks.
You see, like there's a pause with every game. You're like, they could though. They could.
I mean, the tough thing is like I think they could beat the Bengals. I think they could beat the Seahawks. I don't think they can beat the Ravens, but the Ravens might not be playing their starters, so maybe. But man, I think if I was to sit down and rank those 4 teams, the Steelers would be the 4th ranked. And so it only makes sense that they would lose at least 2 of those 3 games. If not all 3.
They should. They should lose.
They should. That's the problem with this whole season. Is a lot of things should have happened and they didn't.
However, I think the magic continues. I don't know what it is. I don't want to see it end. I don't know about you. Some shenanigan is going to happen, and they're going to win one of those 2 games. The Ravens are going to clinch the 1 seed and not play their starters, and they're going to sneak out two of these wins.
The problem is though, if it continues, the Steelers could very well sneak into a playoff spot, and I don't want to see this team in the playoffs. I don't, because they're going to face the Bengals. If they get a win over the Bengals and a win over the Ravens, that's 2 wins in the AFC. They're going to be at 9-8, and I just don't want to see it happen, man. Like, I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs, and I don't want to see some bum Pittsburgh Kansas City matchup in the first round or Pittsburgh Miami matchup in the first round.
Well, I think Indy and Houston for sure would have the tiebreaker over unless they've played head-to-head, and I don't remember. But I think Texans and Colts would both have tiebreakers over the Steelers. So I think if anything, the Bengals would get knocked out and Colts would be 6th, Texans would be 7th, or vice versa. It also requires the Jaguars to win out their season.
Also, I don't want to see the Bengals get knocked out in favor of the Steelers. That's the whole problem in all of this. You're creating chaos over there. I don't like it.
That's what I'm here for. You're welcome. I think they find a way. I don't know how. I don't know who. I don't know what. They're going to find a way.
I mean, I guess I'm at a point of like, it wouldn't surprise me if they found a way, but I'm actively rooting against it happening. So,
yeah,
with that being said, I think it's time we jump in to this wonderful Christmas weekend of games. And let's jump into week 16 and get a little picky with it, man.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
Starting us off on Thursday night. Well, actually, before we jump into that, what is your record now, good sir? Ooh. I cannot hear you.
I muted myself during the song, so
I
didn't ruin the song.
Of course you did.
I did not do great this week. Like I said, did great on Thursday and Saturday. Rest of the week, not so much. I am at 126 and 83.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that math correct? Because that is a 1 game difference from me.
I definitely at least lost 1 game to you. Because...
No. What I mean is that's because I'm sitting at 131 and 77. Hold on. I could have done bad math.
This is not a math podcast, so it's possible.
I might be at 132 and 77.
That'd put me
I think
6
I am.
games behind you. That makes sense.
I think I am.
Because I think I dropped 2 or 3 to you this week. I can't remember.
All right, 132 and 77 for
Because the
moi.
Bears couldn't hold on to a dang lead.
Listen, it's the way she goes, man. It's the way she goes. Starting us off on Thursday night, getting the Christmas action rolling early. We have the 7-7 New Orleans Saints heading out to SoFi to take on the 7-7 Los Angeles Rams. Both these teams fighting for a playoff positioning. It's an important game. It's a wild card berth type of game. The winner of this, it could come down to in a couple weeks who won this game as far as head-to-head tie-breaking matchups. At home, the Rams 4-point favorites. I don't like this game in general. I think one of these teams is going to make the playoffs, and I don't think that I want to see that. I just think they're both very mid teams. They're 500 records. They both have 7-7 records. But I just don't. There's nothing that like when you watch these teams is magical. Let me take that back. The Rams have some magic to watch on the offense. But as a whole, I don't think they're a very good team. But if anything, I guess I would root for the Rams to make the playoffs over the Saints just because of Puka Nacua and what he's been able to do this year. Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, all of them guys on the offense. There's more star power for sure. But give me the Rams in this one. I don't like it. I might not watch this game. We'll see. who you got, man?
Yeah, this is one of those games where I was like, maybe I'll just pick opposite of what Devin does, but I think the Rams have been rolling a little bit better.
I just don't believe in the Saints. I have zero faith in the Saints.
If you look at the Rams, their last 5 games, they're 4-1. What the only loss being to that overtime loss against the Ravens. I mean, they beat the Browns, which is huge because that defense is the most notable win there. I don't know. I just think the Rams are more on a roll. I'm going to stick with my gut and not try to steal a win from you and just try to get a win in general and go with the Los Angeles Rams.
Well, there you go. Let's turn our attention to Saturday, the 23rd. I do not know how much football I'll be able to watch on Saturday because I'm having one of my Christmases on Saturday with my girlfriend's family. So who knows how much football will be on the TV there. But we have the 8-6 Cincinnati Bengals heading into Pittsburgh to get a little revenge on that 7-7 Pittsburgh Steelers squad on the road. Cincy 2.5-point favorites. I like it. I think the Bengals are the better team. I think the Bengals should win this game, and that's why I'm rolling with Cincinnati. I'm rolling with Jake Browning to get some revenge on the team that handed him his first loss. Who you got, man?
It's a trap. This feels like a trap to me.
Oh, don't say
this
that.
Feels like
don't say that.
A divisional game at Pittsburgh. Pickett might be back. The Steelers, like, for some reason, even with Joe Burrow playing quarterback, the Bengals have a very tough time beating the Steelers, no matter what. And I'm going to roll with it. I think this is one of the 2 wins that the Steelers sneak out to get their 9-7.
Okay.
You can't say that like you would not be surprised if it happened.
Nah, I'm not going to be surprised if it happens.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I just don't want to see it happen, Pete. I don't want to put the thought out there. Just let it not be a thing that comes to fruition.
No praying to Pigskin Poppy this week.
No, not for that game. Not for that game. Oh, Saturday night. over on Peacock, a Peacock exclusive. I don't know how I feel about that. Who pays for Peacock? I did for a minute, and I do not anymore for a good reason.
I still do, but it's mainly because of
Other wrestling, probably.
wrestling,
Yeah.
because it took over the WWE network.
Yeah, which that makes sense. But outside of that, Peacock is not worth it. We have
99's on there. It's a good show.
We have the 8-6 Buffalo Bills heading out to SoFi to take on the 5-9 Los Angeles Chargers, the hapless Los Angeles Chargers who just got their butts handed to them by the Raiders. Buffalo on the road, 11.5-point favorites. That seems like a wild line for a team that a couple weeks ago people were not really talking about. It seems very recency bias heavy that the line would be that big. But also the Chargers are a pile of dookie, and the Bills are scary. So give me the Bills in this one. I would be very surprised if the Chargers even keep it interesting. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Buffalo blew out a good team in the Dallas Cowboys. Los Angeles just got blown out by a not great team in the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, this is Buffalo's game for sure. At this point, the Chargers just lose out, get a nice high draft pick to sell to, whoever your next head coach will be. There's apparently people want Belichick to go there. Yeah, just tank for, I don't know what you need, because you have talent places. So I don't know what talent-wise they actually need on this
coach.
Team.
They need a coach. That's the talent they need.
That's true. They could just trade for Bill Belichick or Sean Payton or something. Trade the draft pick. I don't know. But give me Buffalo. I would be surprised if it's close, especially with Herbert still, out for the season.
Yeah. And old Easton Stick, the lacrosse player out there making his moves.
I know it's the joke, but Easton probably does make lacrosse sticks, which is wild that they would name him that.
Oh, man. That brings us to Christmas Eve, 1 p.m. over on Fox. We have the 10-4 Detroit Lions heading into Minneapolis to take on the 7-7 Minnesota Vikings. Hey, the Vikings need this win to keep pace in the wild card hunt. I do believe if the Lions win this game, they clinch the division, which, man, who thought that'd be a sentence we'd be saying in 2023? I think if you told Lions fans 5 years ago that was on the cusp of happening, they would call you a dang liar. But it's real. It's here. The Lions are here, baby. They ain't going nowhere. And they're 3.5-point favorites against the division rival. I like it. Give me the Lions to keep rolling. The Vikings, I think the Kirk Cousins injury is what caused the downfall of their season, which is unfortunate because Kirk was having a good year, and Kirk probably ain't going to be there next year, and we'll see where he lands, but he had a very good run in the Vikings uniform. And now they got Nick Mullins, I think, is probably going to start this game again because Josh Dobbs played himself out of that position. But who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. Division games, again, always weird. It is in Minnesota, but Minnesota is has a roof, and apparently Jared Goff plays the best, like the Dallas Cowboys when it's not cold. So, yeah, I don't know if that's the best reason to pick them, but the Lions are just a better team all around. So give me Detroit. Let them clinch the North and have their glory for a couple weeks.
Yep. Well, that brings us to another NFC North team, the Green Bay Packers, making their way down to Charlotte to take on the 2-12 Carolina Panthers. Hey, Panthers, you won another game. You figured it out. Sure, there might have been some weather involved. Sure, there might have been some shenanigans from Arthur Smith involved, but irregardless, you got yourself win number 2 of the season. I am closely monitoring ticket prices for this game because if they drop anywhere near what the ticket prices were for last week's game, I will probably be at this game. I'm supposed to be heading to my parents on Christmas Eve on Sunday morning, and Charlotte just happens to kind of be on the way there. So
you can afford $34.
Yeah, I know. But is it worth $34 to go watch Packers versus Panthers? I mean,
to watch your favorite team play football? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's I mean, they're not playing well, and the Panthers are playing real bad.
Yeah, no, so you can watch them get a win.
If it drops down to 50-cent tickets like it was for Panthers versus Falcons, then I will for sure be there. Because the other thing you got to factor in with ticket prices is you have to then pay for parking, and you then have to pay for concessions inside. There's more that goes into it than just the price of the ticket. So, if it keeps on going down, I might try to make it happen. That's all I'm saying. But give me the Packers in this one. I think that next year, if the Packers make a couple of the right moves, one of which being firing Joe Barry and bringing in actual defensive coordinator, I think the Packers could be competitive again, like legitimately competitive again in the NFC as early as next year or 2 years from now. 2 years from now for sure. I think Jordan Love has shown that he is... I don't know if franchise quarterback is the right thing to call him yet, but I think that he's shown that he is definitely capable of being a starting quarterback in the NFL, and not just a starting quarterback, but like a good starting quarterback, like a top 15 starting quarterback. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but it is weird seeing how eerily similar his numbers are to the Packers and to Aaron Rodgers' numbers whenever he started in 2008. The numbers are virtually identical, and the Packers 2008 went 6-10 in Rodgers' first year, and 2 years later won the Super Bowl. Not saying that's going to happen with Jordan Love. I'm just saying that anything is possible. But give me the Packers this one. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also going with the Packers. As fun as it would be to pick the Panthers to beat the Packers, I don't think it's going to happen. Not much else to say about it. Panthers got an assist from the awful weather that we had here in the Carolinas.
100% got an assist.
Yeah. This past weekend. And Arthur Smith's poor coaching. So, yeah, give me the Packers.
Well, hey, speaking of that poor coaching, we've got the 8-6 Indianapolis Colts heading down to the ATL to take on those 6-8 Atlanta Falcons. And hey, at home, Falcons 1-point favorites. Somehow, I don't like it. I think the Colts still continue to baffle me. Nothing about what they're doing makes sense, which means that it absolutely has to be something with Shane Steichen and what he's done in that locker room as far as putting some sort of belief, instilling some sort of belief within those players that they can go out and win games they have no business winning. And because of that, I think that they're going to go into Atlanta and take care of business. I don't know if it'll be a super easy win for them, but I don't think it'll be particularly close. I think it could be 7 to 10 point win for the Colts. That would not surprise me at all. So give me Indy. Who you got, man?
I cannot believe that Las Vegas would disrespect Minshew Mania like this. Falcons?
Listen.
That just lost to the Panthers?
I'm here for every big Minshew game because, as I mentioned, I somehow made the playoffs in the Deep Keeper League with him as my quarterback. And I just won the first round with him as my quarterback. And so if he wants to keep doing it for the next 2 weeks and lead me to a championship, I will take it. I will take it. Gardner, go off, buddy. Go off.
The Colts have won 5 of their last 6.
Yeah.
And you're going to give Atlanta 1 point over them? Minshew Mania is running wild on the Falcons this week, and then they should go straight to Vegas and run wild on whoever the heck is making these dang lines. Give me the Colts. Unbelievable. Somebody should be fired. I don't know who over at ESPN Bet is making these lines. They should be fired immediately.
Up next, we have the 7-7 Seattle Seahawks heading into Nashville to take on the 5-9 Tennessee Titans. This Titan squad coming off the loss to Houston, eliminated from playoff contention. Derrick Henry contemplating retirement. I don't think he will, but he did talk about, future and his plans.
I think at the very least his time on the Titans is done. I think he should
give it
another shot. Give it a shot on another team. See if he can get on a contender. See if he can go get a ring somewhere. But
listen, while we're talking about things being done on the Titans, I think the Titans should have to give those Oilers uniforms back to the town they belong to, and the Houston Texans. Listen, you can't wear those uniforms and then lose the game. You have to give them up at that point. Like, they need to be returned to the city of Houston. Seahawks.
My wife knows nothing about the history of football, and I told him the mad disrespect the Titans were doing wearing those uniforms, and she's just like, "Yeah, that's awful. Why did they do that?" I'm like, "That's just they have the rights because they didn't sell it to the city or whatever."
Technically, it is their throwback uniforms because they used to be the Houston Oilers, and then they moved to Nashville. But yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Okay, so what? The Chiefs are going to wear Dallas Texans uniforms, or the the Ravens are going to wear Browns uniforms? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, on the road, Seattle 3-point favorites. I like it. Give me the Seahawks. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm going to take Seahawks as well. At this point, it's just get Will Levis as much experience as you can, because I as far as I can tell, I think he's earned himself another year on that team, unless the Titans really desperately want to get one of these top tier quarterbacks coming in the draft, which we'll see who's actually available. But I think Will Levis deserves, as weird as he is, deserves a year as the starter to try to see what he can do next year while they're rebuilding. So, but regardless, I'm still going to pick the Seahawks to win the game because they actually have something to play for.
Oh, well, speaking of teams that have nothing to play for, we have the 4-10 Washington Commanders going into MetLife Stadium to take on the 5-9 New York Jets. Jets at home, 3-point favorites. Nothing to say about this game because this game is entirely meaningless. It means nothing outside of draft seeding. And who wants to watch a game with draft positioning on the line? Not me. I'll be watching Red Zone on Sunday if I'm at home, and I don't want to see a single clip from this game. I don't care if Garrett Wilson catches a touchdown. I don't care if Sam Howell's tossing a dime to Terry McLaurin in the end zone. I don't want to see it. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. All that being said, give me the New York Jets, because sure, why not? I have no reason. Who you got, man?
Yeah. Literally in my notes, I wrote opposite of Devin. Because this game doesn't matter. Both teams could play super well. Both teams could score 0 points. We could get, a rematch of the Vikings and Raiders from a couple weeks ago, or we could get a shootout. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen either. So I'm going to pick Washington because you didn't pick them.
The worst possible thing that could happen in this game is if it turns into a shootout. Because if it turns into a shootout, Red Zone will be putting it on my screen constantly. constantly. Oh, Sam Howell just tossed his third touchdown pass of the day to Jahan Dotson. And Zach Wilson answered with a dime to Garrett Wilson. I don't care. Don't show it to me. Don't interrupt my Browns-Texans game or my Jags-Bucks game with this garbage. Don't do it. I don't want to see it. Speaking of the Browns and Texans, next up, the 9-5 Cleveland Browns head down to Houston to take on the 8-6 Houston Texans. Cleveland, 2.5-point favorites on the road. I think you could probably make that a little bit higher with the way the Texans have looked recently and with all the injuries they're dealing with. Hopefully though, the Texans can get healthy for this game. Hopefully they got some guys returning. I hope that CJ Stroud will be back. I'm sure he will, seeing how it was just a concussion. I think. I
was going to say, Stroud concussion is not expected to be cleared in time to play Sunday's Week 16 matchup with the Browns.
Really? Well, that is a dang bummer. Because this is a game that had all kinds of playoff implications on the line. These two teams both need to keep winning. And man, I don't know if Case Keenum can pull off the magic he pulled off in Week 15 against the Titans again against this top-tier elite Browns defense. It doesn't change who I was going to pick. I was going to go with the Browns anyways, even though I don't want to necessarily see them win. I'd rather see the fun team from Houston get the win. But give me Cleveland. Who you got, man?
I think there's a conspiracy. People aren't out with concussions this long. They're keeping CJ Stroud out. Somebody's keeping the Texans out of the playoffs.
Well, there has been times where...
Nope, I don't care. I don't care what precedent you're about to tell me. It's a conspiracy. The Texans should just declare themselves national champions. They should just do that. Pull a Florida State at the end of the season and just declare themselves national champions. I was trying to see if there's any big injuries to that defense, and nobody's actually out, I don't think. Everybody is questionable, that at least from who started last week. So, unfortunately, I have to go with you. I'm going to pick the dumb Browns to win the dumb game.
I mean, it does happen occasionally that someone's not cleared from the concussion protocol after 2 weeks, that they're still dealing with whatever repercussions there are from it. But it could be a combination of him being young, him being a rookie, and not wanting to potentially risk putting him back on the field too soon. If he's like close to passing, but maybe still a little shaken up.
Nope, I don't care. It's a conspiracy.
Okay, it's a conspiracy. I'll roll with you.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
Let's head on down to Tampa, where we have the 8-6 Jacksonville Jaguars heading into Tampa Bay to take on the 7-7 Buccaneers. It's a battle for Florida on Sunday. Tampa, 1-point favorites at home over this Jags team. That's a little surprising to me. The Jags should be a lot better than they are, but they have slipped mightily over the last couple weeks. While the Bucs kind of keep trending upwards, they keep things moving, keep things chugging along, keep getting some wins. I really like this Tampa squad. I really do. Oh man, I wrote down Jags over Bucs, and I think I'm gonna switch it to Tampa Bay. Give me the Buccaneers to get it done over Trevor Lawrence and the boys on Sunday. Who you got, man?
I don't even have to switch mine. I had Tampa Bay down from the beginning. It is sad. I do like the Jaguars, but something just seems off there. And then also the Colts and the Texans are trending upwards. So, I mean, Jacksonville should be desperate right now, and they should be fighting for their.
They should.
It didn't seem like they were fighting for their lives against Baltimore this past week. So I don't know what it is, but Tampa Bay has it figured out right now. They're coming off a fantastic game against Green Bay. They won the Battle of the Bays, and they're going to win the Battle of Florida as well. It's going to be Tampa Bay.
Yep. Well, hey, look, it's another meaningless game. I guess for one team, it's not entirely meaningless.
Hey, Chicago can technically still make the playoffs. Hold on.
They're still alive, but they're probably going to be eliminated this Sunday anyways, whether or not they win this game. By the time this game rolls around at 4:25, they could already be mathematically eliminated. I'm sure of it. But we have the 3-11 Arizona Cardinals heading into Chi-Town to take on the 5-9 Chicago Bears. At home, Bears 4.5-point favorites. Listen, the Bears are trending up. I like what the Bears have done recently. I think that they're showing some things. Again, I still say it's unfortunate that what they're showing will probably, hopefully not, but probably give Matt Eberflus another year in Chicago, and I think that's a mistake. But it is what it is. Like I said, Bears are looking good. Give me the Bears over the Cards. I don't like the Cards. I think they're not in a good spot. Who you got, man?
I was trying to see if I could find the scenario in which the Bears can still make the playoffs, but all the articles were from last week because they were like, oh, well, they need to win their last 4 games. And it's like, well, they already lost one. So what do they do now? Obviously, they need to win out if they have any hope of doing it. I'm sure some other teams.
I mean, they've got to win out. They've got to win out, and they need a lot of help. Yeah. A lot of help.
Regardless, I think the Bears showed a lot against that great Browns defense, and I think at this point, what they're playing for, Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus are both playing for their careers right now. I think the team is giving Eberflus the benefit of the doubt, even though I think he's an awful coach. I think Justin Fields is fine and is just a victim of awful coaching, awful play calling, awful everything up there in Chicago.
Yeah.
Not saying he's like the best ever, but I think he's definitely better than what Chicago paints him to be. I'm going to go with Chicago to get the win over the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Bears.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I have talked a lot of junk about Justin Fields. And I'm not going to say I take 100% of it back. But I am at a point to where I feel like Justin Fields is a fine quarterback. I don't know if I would necessarily want him as my starter, but I also wouldn't hate it if he was my starter. That makes sense?
I think there are teams that are running with backups right now that you would like. Yeah, I would definitely rather have Justin Fields than
right. Which I mean, I think Fields is better than being a backup quarterback. I think he should be a starter somewhere. But here's the thing: Chicago is going to have Carolina's first pick, and so they're going to have the top overall pick. At this point, with what Justin Fields has shown you through 3 years, because this is his 3rd year, I believe. Would you stick with Fields going into next year? Or would you take one of these high-end quarterbacks with the first overall pick?
It is tough for me because I don't watch college enough to like as they would say, I don't have enough like knowledge of tape on like Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Right.
Part of me thinks they probably will. The Bears don't seem like the type of organization that like to completely rebuild. And I think they're gonna see that Justin Fields had some success and think, oh, and I've thought about it a lot this week because earlier this week I did say in the Discord I don't think they draft a quarterback. But I've been thinking more and more, especially after this game, and I'm like, well, maybe. Even though those 2 interceptions weren't his fault. They were both on Hail Marys. Like, right. What are you going to do there? But yeah, I think Justin Fields' time in Chicago might be done. They're at least going to think about it a lot.
Here's my thing. I think that if they decide to keep Eberflus, you roll with Justin Fields. I unfortunately, I think the two are tied together. I think if you decide to keep Matt Eberflus, then you stick with Justin Fields. You go get him, probably Marvin Harrison Jr., the top wide receiver, coming out of college. You go get him some big weapon, and you see what happens. If you decide to move on from the head coach, I think you let that head coach decide who he wants to roll with. If he wants to go draft a quarterback or if he wants to stick with Justin Fields. Which I would think that the whoever the new head coaches would probably want to go get, the top guy that he wants.
Yeah.
Versus sticking with Justin Fields. So
yeah,
I think
it depends on the coach. I'm sure there are some coaches that's the thing. Like Justin Fields.
I think it's going to come down to the coaching decision, whether or not you stick with Eberflus or move on. I think that's going to decide Justin Fields' fate ultimately.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a little unfair to Fields, but it is what it is. That's the nature of the business.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on to a potential Super Bowl preview. We have the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys heading into Miami to take on the 10-4 Miami Dolphins. Miami at home, 1.5 point favorites. I think this could be a close game. I think it could be a close matchup. Cowboys don't play exceptionally well outside of AT&T Stadium, and the Dolphins also don't play exceptionally well against good teams. So it's going to be an interesting game in that aspect. Man, I just think the Cowboys are too good to lose back-to-back games against the Bills and the Dolphins. I think that they're a team that can go out there and at the very least, hang with this Miami squad. And I'm going to pick them to win. I think Dallas gets it done in Miami. Who you got, man?
Fun fact. 15 weeks into the season, Miami Dolphins have still not beaten a team with a winning record. Technically, the Broncos are now at 500, but they beat the pants off the Broncos.
Yeah.
And that was the 70-20 game.
Yep.
And I think the Raiders are 5-8 or 6-7, something like that. I think those are like the teams with the highest records. Them and like the Giants. They've beaten all these mid teams. I think the Cowboys are going to come in. I think it could be close, but yeah, I think the Cowboys roll in here and get some business done after getting embarrassed last week. Give me the Cowboys.
Yep, I agree. And speaking of that Broncos team, we have the 3-11 New England Patriots heading out to Denver to take on the Denver Broncos. Denver, 7-point favorites against this Patriot squad. New England is just in rough shape right now. I will be shocked if Bill Belichick is still there next year. There have been reports that have come out that they've already decided to part ways with him at the end of the season. Although Ian Rappaport also came out and said that decision has not 100% been made yet. I don't know what Robert Kraft will be doing if he sticks with Bill Belichick for another season. I think it's just time for a fresh start in New England. Get the rebuild going. See what happens. As far as this game goes, give me the Broncos. I think they're absolutely better than the Patriots, which isn't saying much, but they are 7-7. So give me Denver. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also going to pick Denver. Now, Bill Belichick and Patriots defense, I feel like you always have to be a little weary of, but the Broncos, besides this last game, have been playing well, and I think they can get it done. We'll see. I don't know how the Broncos do in primetime. It is a primetime game, which they get way too many of.
This is true.
They get way too many primetime games.
This is also true.
But I'm going to pick them anyway because the Patriots don't need to play well. So,
yeah. Well, that brings us to Monday, December 25th. And hey, ho, 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 what's that? We got Christmas football. Santa's bringing us some pigskin presents on Monday. We've got the 6-8 Las Vegas Raiders heading into Arrowhead to take on the 9-5 Kansas City Chiefs. Is old T Swizzle going to be spending Christmas with her new man?
I don't see why not. I don't think she has a show or anything. So.
I mean, this is important information. I need this info to make my pick.
Why? They've lost games with her there.
This is true. They have, actually. You make a good point. Kansas City, 10-point favorites against this Raider squad. This Raider squad is... Listen, I understand they just dropped like 60-something points on the Chargers, but Chiefs are a different story. Raiders are not great. Chiefs are good when people are lining up on sides.
Or not
Give
dropping
me
passes. Even though we got the win, Tony freaking again. I can't do this. You say what you're gonna say.
Give me Kansas City. I feel like I already know who you're picking, but who you got, man?
I'm picking Kansas City. Of course I am. But dag nabbit, Kadarius Tony, just one week. Can we just get 1 week without you or Jawan Taylor doing something dumb? Just 1 week.
Those games against Vegas are always a little closer than they should be.
I don't think our other one this year was. I could be wrong though.
Probably not. But they do seem to kind of play down to the Raiders every single time they play them.
When we played the Raiders this year, we beat them 31-17.
Okay. All right.
And I think I actually don't know who their quarterback was. It was Aiden O'Connell. Never mind.
Last year was a weird one though. That was one that they won that was the
Last year was the one we won in overtime or something on Monday Night Football.
That was the
Devontae.
That was the Devontae photographer push game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We they were ahead 17-0, and we came back and beat them. And Devontae Adams pushed a guy.
That's what I'm saying, man. I'm just saying, games against the Raiders get a little weird sometimes.
They are a little weird, but I
don't see it happen.
They need to now. It's winter time. They need to snowball to the end of the year, get all these wins, maybe sneak the number 1 seed again.
That ain't happening.
Let it be the Arrowhead Invitational.
Listen, I hate to burst your bubble.
Yeah, I know.
But Patrick Mahomes is playing some road playoff games this year if he wants to make it to another Super Bowl. He ain't getting the run through Arrowhead that he's had.
You say that, but it wouldn't be the first time that they haven't had the 1 seed that they still didn't, because Chiefs could very easily still get the 2 seed. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Miami.
True.
So could very easily still get the 2 seed.
True.
And what happened, I think it was the year that we won the Super Bowl. It was the year that the Ravens won, I want to say 12 or 13 regular season games in a row to end the season. And then lost in the divisional round after their bye. And so we still got the championship game.
True.
Could happen again. Could technically happen again. Will probably only happen if we get the 2nd seed instead of the 3rd seed. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, let's move on to Philly, where we have a nice NFC East divisional matchup. We've got the 5-9 New York Giants heading into town to take on the 10-4 Philadelphia Eagles at home. Philly 12-point favorites over DeVito and the boys. I think that's fair.
They lost to Gabagool. Oh no.
I'm still not a believer in this Eagles squad. I think Monday night showcased a lot of that. Yes, Jalen Hurts was dealing with some sickness, but I think the Eagles aren't the same team. However, I would be shocked if they lose to this Giant squad. The Giants are up and down, but more down than up. Give me Philly. Who you got, man?
Yeah, this is for the Eagles, not just for their playoff positioning, but also just for their pride. This is a must win for them. They haven't had a big win in like 7 weeks. I think their only their last 2-score win was over the Dolphins in that Thursday night game that they had no penalties called on them. That was their last big win. Since then, close win over the Commanders, close win over the Cowboys, close win over the Chiefs, close win over the Bills, lost to the Niners by like 3 scores, lost to the Cowboys by 3 scores, and then that loss to the Seahawks this week. They need some momentum to end the season. And luckily for them, they played the Giants twice and the Cardinals. So this is the perfect opportunity for, like I'm hoping the Chiefs will do, to just snowball to the end of the season, get a few big wins right in a row, and ride that momentum into the playoffs. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles over the New Jersey Football Giants.
Yep. Well, ending our Christmas weekend and ending our day of Christmas football at 8:15 Monday night, we get the game of the week. Potential Super Bowl preview. We have the 2-1 seeds facing off. The 11-3 Baltimore Ravens heading into San Francisco to take on the 11-3 San Francisco 49ers. I think this game is going to be a lot of fun. At least I hope it's a lot of fun. I do not want to be disappointed with another big matchup turning into a blowout. San Francisco 5.5 point favorites at home. I think that says a lot about what Vegas thinks of this Niner squad to give San Francisco 5.5 points at home over a very, very good Baltimore Ravens team. I think it'll be a close game. I hope it'll be a close game. Ooh. Part of me wants to pick Baltimore, but I can't root against this Niner squad. 49ers are too dang good on both sides of the ball at every single position. They're just stacked. They're loaded. I think that this might be San Francisco's year. Give me the 49ers. Who you got, man?
Yeah. There's just no weak spot to this 49ers team.
There's not.
There was the first half of the season, especially when they had their 3-game losing streak, there was some question about, Brock Purdy being the weak link of the team, but I think he's proved, I'm not saying he should win MVP, because in a lot of ways, with how good he's been, he's not even the most impressive player on his team. CMC's
true.
If I'm personally giving MVP, I'm giving it to Christian McCaffrey, but they don't give that award to not quarterbacks anymore. So, but yeah, that being said, they're just more polished, no weak spots, whereas Baltimore can still be a little turnover prone. Just lost Keaton Mitchell again at running back, who was playing fantastic until he got injured this week. Yeah, I'm going to take San Francisco to win this one. If Baltimore wins, I wouldn't be surprised. Baltimore is very good, but it's just number 1 seed versus number 1 seed. Sometimes you meet your match, and I think this is when Baltimore meets it.
Yep, I could not agree more with you. But either way, I think that's a nice end game to the weekend. And hopefully it will be a nice way to finish off a hopefully very good Christmas for everybody out there. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. I hope that you guys are traveling safe for Christmas, whether you're just driving down the street to grandma's house or driving across the country to visit family. Hopefully you have a safe and Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you are celebrating. Hopefully it's spent with good friends and family, and it's a lot of fun and enjoyable time of the year for you. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. We love you. Thank you for all the support. You can find us on our socials if you would like. Hop into the Discord as always. That's where the sports talk is always going down. But we appreciate you. We love you. Have a very, very Merry Christmas. Happy Holidays. And we'll be back next week for week 17. And as always, believe that's that.
Good chow.